Hello everyone, this is Ryan. In this lesson I'll be showing you how to work with a remote Git repository. So a remote repository allows you to collaborate with other people on the same project. And it's typically hosted either on your own local servers that you have control over or on a server in the cloud. And there's a couple of people that provide the service for free. So let's have a look at some of these. And one that's really popular is github.com. And they allow you to create as many public repositories as you like, whereas private repositories you unfortunately have to pay for. But let's talk about private and public repositories. So a public repository is great for open source projects because anyone on the internet can have access to a public repository. Whereas a private repository is limited to a certain number of users, and so only those users then have access to that repository. So for closed source projects, we rather want to use a private repository instead of a public repository. So if we go to the pricing page on github.com, you will see the charges they have for the private repositories. $7 a month for personal use, and you can have unlimited number then, and an unlimited number of people collaborating. Otherwise, organizations are more expensive. Another option is bitbucket.org, which I kind of like because they provide unlimited number of private repositories for free. They have a different model of pricing actually. They charge per number of people. So up to 5 people on a project is completely free. More than 5 people you will start paying. So this suits us down to the ground. I'm going to just do a demonstration with 2 people working on a project. So we will start by logging in. You'll have to create your free account and then log in. I already have my account, so I will just log in with that. Once you're logged in, you can go to Teams and create yourself a team. I've already created a team, but just to show you the process, you would go create team, and give your team a name and an ID, and then add as many people as you want to their team based on their email address or their username. So what I've done here is I've actually created a team called Ledge, and I have assigned 2 people to this team. I've assigned a Ledge bucket user and myself to the team. Okay, so once you've got a team, you can create projects. So I'm going to create a project, and I'll call it project, and then it's going to be a private project. Click on create project, and then within that project I'm going to create a repository, and I'm going to just call it project. Okay, click on create repository, and I have successfully created the repository. So it now gives us instructions on how we can link our remote repository to our local repository, and it does so for a graphical client known as SourceTree, as well as for the command line client. Now we're not using SourceTree as our graphical client, we're using GetGUI, but SourceTree is another alternative which you can download and install. It's a great client for Windows and Mac, unfortunately not supported in Linux. So if you'd like to experiment with SourceTree, feel free to do so. I'm going to just make use of the command line instructions for now. Then there are 2 choices. Either you're starting from scratch, in other words you haven't yet created a local repository, or you already have an existing local repository that you want to push up here. So we'll choose the second option because we already do have an existing local repository called project, and we're going to push that up here. Okay, so these are the instructions you need to follow. You can just as well copy and paste these into your Git command line tool. I'll show you how to launch the Git command line tool. From within your project, the easiest way to do so is to right click and say git bash here, and that will actually launch the Git command line tool, and from there you can just issue all the instructions that you need. You can also launch the Git GUI, and one can also do a lot of these steps using the Git GUI as well. So let's follow the instructions. The first step is we need to add a remote. So the command line instruction to do this is get remote add, and then you give the remote a name. Now the name can be anything you like, but most times we call this origin. Then you need to take the URL of your particular remote and use that particular URL. Now yours will be different to mine, but it will include your username at Bitbucket and then the address of the particular project. So in this case I'm going to just copy the entire line and paste that into the command line. So if I hit enter now, it will go ahead and add the remote. Another way you can add a remote is by going to the Git GUI, going to the remote option, choosing add, giving it a name, and then pasting in the URL, the same URL, clicking on add. So feel free to do it using the Git GUI or the Git command line. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, and now I've successfully added the remote. Then the next step will be to push up our code to the remote. So the command for that is git push. Then where do we want to push up our code to? We want to push it up to the remote called origin. If your remote was called something else, you would need to then put the name of the remote there. So let's copy this in. And click on paste. Now if I hit enter, that will push up all my code from the local repository to the remote called origin. The -u option is significant here in that it's going to create what we call a tracking branch. A tracking branch will keep track of changes made on the remote. So this is the ideal situation. We need to create a tracking branch. We can also push up our code from the Git GUI using the push command, which will just bring up a wizard to push the master branch to the remote. But the problem with this is it tends not to create it as a tracking branch. So I'm going to rather do it from the command line. Okay, you can see it's compressing the files and uploading the files to the remote. Okay, so to see the changes, go to, you'll see on the remote we have a little link here called source. If we click on that, we will actually see all the files that have been uploaded to the remote. Okay, so to do some demonstration, I'm going to go and change one of these files. Let's change fancy credits. So I'll open that up in an editor and I'll make some changes to it. So I'll just say some changes, save the file and exit. Remember that if you make changes, that you need to stage those changes and commit them. So now I'm finished for now with the command line. So I'll close that out and then launch the Git GUI again. You'll see now it's already picked up unstaged changes. You may need to just click rescan if you've already got yours open. And now I'm going to stage these for commit and put a commit message. Click on commit, and those have now been committed. And then I need to push up those changes by clicking on push. And I'm saying I want to push up my master branch to the remote called origin. Okay, it may ask you for username and password. In my case, it already knows that, so it's uploaded. To see the changes on the remote, we can just go to, we'll probably have to do a refresh here, just to get an update. So you'll see the fancycredits.py was uploaded 40 seconds ago. and you can see my commit message made some changes to Fancy Credits. So if I click on it, you can actually view the code changes. Here you'll see the line of code that I added. You can also edit code directly here on the master side, and you can do that by just clicking on edit. So here I'm going to make some more changes, and then click on commit, put in a commit message, click on commit. So this is committing on the remote side. I now need to pull down these changes to my local side. So I'll do that by switching over to the Git GUI, and then we will go to the menu option called remote and fetch from remote origin. Now that should download any changes made on the remote side to the local side. Okay, it's successfully downloaded. Take a look at the message. It says master from the remote side was downloaded to origin master on the local side. Now origin master is a special name for a branch on our local side which is a true copy of the remote side. So this is not the same as my master branch locally. So I'll just click on close there. So what I need to do is merge those changes into my master branch from the local side. So I'll go to local merge, and now you'll see I want to merge into master, and it's my tracking branch called origin master that I want to merge into my master branch. So just to recap, master is my master local branch. That's different from the remote. Origin master is what I've just fetched from the remote, and that's now different to what I have in master. So I need to merge this into my master branch. So I'll just click on merge, and it successfully merges that branch into my master branch. So you'll see now if I switch over to my code and I go into fancycredits.py, you see the changes that I made on the remote are now on my local side as well, which is really great. So now what I want to do is simulate logging in as the other team member and show you how that process works. So I'm going to close out the code, and I'm going to close out the Git GUI. I'm going to close out the local project and log out from the remote. Okay, so now what we can do is launch our Git GUI. So let's pretend now I'm not Ryan anymore, but I am Ledge Bucket. So Ledge Bucket is another user. This is a completely different machine that I'm on. So I launch Git GUI, and so I want to now choose the second option here, which is to clone an existing repository. So cloning means that you're copying it down from the remote and to your local machine. So I click on clone. I put in the source location, and the source location is going to be that same URL that I used earlier on. So I'll need to get that URL. So I'm just going to quickly log in now as my other user. Okay, I'm logged in as my other user, and you see that I can already see the project because I was added to that team, the Ledge team. So I can see the project here. So if I click on the project, I can then see a little link over here for the remote. So this is what I actually need now to add to my remote. I'll just copy that, switch back to the Git GUI, and paste that in. So this is the web address, my username, and the address of the project. So now I need to choose a target directory on my local machine where I want this to be cloned into. So I'm just going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder because this was the other person's project folder. So I'll create a new folder, say new folder, and I'll just call it the project, and select that folder. Say clone. Okay, it already exists, so I need to then maybe specify a different folder. Let's just say project 2 clone. Okay, now it's busy downloading. Okay, so it's downloaded the remote master branch, and it's created a branch on my machine called Origin Master. Okay, now it's connected me into the project. So you'll see if I go to my desktop and I go into project 2 folder, I can see a copy of all the files. So now let me edit some of these files. So I'm going to say and we'll save. Now we want to rescan, stage our changes for commit, put in a commit message, and then commit. Okay, now that we have committed into the local repository, we need to push our changes to the remote. So we push our master branch to the remote called Origin. Push up the changes. Changes have been pushed up successfully. Okay, we can see that by looking on the website at the source tree. Okay, and we'll see there the new file was uploaded 36 seconds ago. If I click on it, you can actually see the changes made here. And so now, just pretending that I'm logging in again as Ryan, I'm going to go out of the Git GUI here and launch the Git GUI again. But this time I'll launch it from project folder, which is Ryan's project copy of the files. And then I'm going to do a fetch from the remote. That should pull down all the changes. Then I need to merge into my local master branch from the origin master. Okay, now if I look inside the file, there's the new file.txt. You can see I've got the changes made by LedgeBucket. So you can see how we can collaborate on a project with multiple users. Now I want to show you an example of a merge conflict. So let's say, for example, I'm now logged in as Ryan, and as Ryan I decide to just put in some extra text here and save that out. And then I go and I do a rescan, and I stage the changes for commit and put in a commit message, commit the changes, push up the changes to the remote. Okay, now we're going to simulate working as LedgeBucket again. So I'll go out of this project folder, go into my other project folder on the other computer, pretend now I'm LedgeBucket, and I'm going to once again launch the Git GUI. Now, good practice is for people working on a project to get into the habit of regularly doing a fetch from the remote. In that way, you're always going to make sure that your local version of the code is as up to date as possible with the remote version of the code. But let's say, for argument's sake, me as this user has not yet done a fetch, and at the same time I've worked on the same file that the other user worked on. So I'm now going to work on that new file.txt again. Remember, Ryan added some text here, but now as this user I'm going to also add some text here. Okay, I'm going to save that out, and then I'm going to do a rescan, stage my changes for commit, and commit. Remember to push up the changes to the remote, and now I should get an error message. So the reason for the error message is that it's telling me that I need to fetch first. So it's picking up that the remote has had some additional changes made since I last downloaded it. So that's fine. Let's do that. We'll do a fetch from origin. Fetch the changes made by Ryan. Okay, I've now fetched those. Remember, now we need to merge those into our local version of the master branch. So we go merge, local merge, and I choose to merge origin master, which is the files I've just downloaded now from the remote, into my version of the master branch. And we should then get an error message telling us there's a merge conflict, because we both try to change the same line of text in new file.txt. So just like we worked with merge conflicts on local branches, the same principle applies to remote branches. So we first need to now fix the conflict manually before we can successfully merge in those changes. So once again, it's actually showed me exactly where the conflict is. So I'm going to edit this file using a text editor. Okay, so you can see that once again it's putting the less than signs with the word head, indicating that this is what I currently have in my latest commit as ledge bucket. But then it's going to show us what's in origin master, which is what we just downloaded from the master. So there's a conflict. We need to decide how we're going to solve this conflict. So we can take the best of both worlds, or we could just choose one of the options. So let's take the best of both worlds. So ledge bucket, added the content ledge bucket, added some text here. Ledge bucket added, okay, Ryan was here. So let's take Ryan was here and copy that in, and I'll just paste that in over here. And this now is going to be the line of text that I want. So I need to get rid of the delimiters, which was added in by Git. And now I'm happy with my code. Just remove blank line. Save the changes. Exit out. We need to then go back to the Git GUI and do a rescan. And you can see now the changes that were made. Stage the changes. We have to do that via the staging menu, via the commit menu. Stage to commit. And then put in a commit message. We can just keep this existing message, or we can append it with our own message. Commit. And now my version is the same, and I'm happy with it. Okay, so I can now push that up to the remote. Okay, I've successfully pushed that up to the remote, and now I'm going to simulate logging in as Ryan again. So I'll switch over to the project folder, launch my Git GUI. First step always to fetch from the remote. And this brings it into the master origin branch, origin master branch. I still need to now merge that into my local copy of master, and this should probably once again bring a conflict. Let's have a look. Say merge. Oh no, it worked happily. Okay, so let's go have a look at the code, and you can see it was a combination of the two. And if I look at my other project folder, it's exactly the same. And of course, if we look at the online version of the code, we'll just go into source and into new file. It's exactly the same. And so that ends our video on working with remote repositories.